Hello, welcome to Embracing Aging. I've changed the name back, and partly because I've been thinking about it for a while because the downhill slope wasn't doing it for me. It didn't motivate me at all. I did think it would, but it didn't. Um, and also, it just doesn't, coming on here and saying welcome to Embracing Aging is like sort of second nature to me now. I couldn't get used to saying the downhill slope. I know I didn't do it a lot. Well, I've not done a lot of videos, but even so, yeah, I could not, I just couldn't remember it. And then I had an email from a subscriber from John who said pretty much the same thing, that he didn't really like the title, Embrace the Downhill Slope. And also kind of reminding me that it's time I put out some video content. And then I had a comment the other day from Russell. So thank you, both of you, Russell and John. You gave me the kick up the backside that I needed to come on here. One of the reasons I haven't been on here recently is because some of you know that my mum's terminally ill. I don't want to go into great detail about it because I'll get emotional, but she's home from hospital. She was admitted to hospital. She's come home to die. There's no treatment available to her, or nothing that she wanted. They did offer her to put a stent in because she's got a tumour, lung cancer, that's pressing on her esophagus and her windpipe. Thank heavens it hasn't affected her breathing yet. She's not having to be on oxygen yet. But it's definitely affected her. She can't eat anything solid anymore. Everything has to be pureed or very thick, like the consistency of thick cream, I guess. So her diet's really restricted and just really difficult for her. I can see that flag there. It's on the top of a wardrobe, but it looks like it's on my shoulder. Yeah, so and my sister's been on holiday. It's been holiday time. My son's been on holiday. My brother's been away. So I've been away myself, but I went away earlier in the year. So I've kind of been doing a bit more for mum and my stepfather than I normally would. Normally my sister does more than I do because she lives closer to them. Not that I don't want to do it, it's just logistically it's easier for her. And we've got a routine between the two of us. My brother does the weekends because he's got young kids, and he works away from home as well quite a lot. So he's not around. So between the three of us, we support them as much as we possibly can. My stepdad's brilliant. He's managing really well while my mum's getting weaker and weaker. And he's having to do the cooking. My sister does the cleaning mostly, but things like the laundry he's doing. And, just physically taking care of mum, getting her drinks, helping her with the food preparation and everything. She can just about, at the moment, she can manage to get in the shower and she can manage her own personal care. But, having a shower is exhausting her now. So she'll have a shower and then she's sleeping for a lot of the time now. But my stepdad, thank God, he's there watching over her, does the shopping, the day-to-day shopping. I do the bigger shopping, stocking up the fridge and that on a weekly basis. But yeah, that's one of the reasons I've not been around. And the other is because I've just been tired and I've been quite emotional about this whole thing, but my mum's strong. She's coping well. There's times when I wanted to strangle her. I'll be honest, it's not all plain sailing. She's been quite difficult and quite impatient, and she's getting very forgetful as well. She never was. My mum's always been on the ball with everything, but she's getting really forgetful and confused, and I guess that's just part of the progression of her illness. So yeah, I know I was doing a bit of a series about things that we need to do before we need to do them. And one of them, I think, is kind of downsizing and looking at your accommodation. My mum and my stepdad do live in a bungalow, so they're on ground street level. They've got a nice garden. Um, and, you know, it's easier to get in and out with a wheelchair if you've got limited mobility. And I do think as we age, we need to think about that eventuality. Um, I'm thinking about it now because we live in an upstairs flat, apartment, flat, whatever. I don't know what you call it in your part of the world, but I call it a flat. We've got no one above us. We've got our own front door. We're not in a building where we have a communal entrance. I think we used to call it a maisonette. You know, where we've got an upstairs, we've got a downstairs flat, and we're in the upstairs flat. There's just the 2 levels. Anyway, yeah, love it here. We've got a nice view from our window. We've got trees right in front of our, you know, I watch the birds and what have you, nature waking up in the morning. We've got lovely neighbours. But I'm very conscious of the fact that, you know, we might not always be able to manage the stairs. And I think that while we're still strong enough and capable enough to, you know, move things ourselves, we ought to be thinking along those lines, you know, moving into accommodation that's accessible from street level. Because I think, you know, if I broke a hip, for instance, if I had a fall and broke a hip, how am I going to get upstairs and downstairs to do anything? You know, I'd be confined to the flat until I recovered. So I'm thinking about like looking at your accommodations, probably an important thing to consider as you get older, and move into something that's, if you are upstairs, you know, maybe if you have a lift or something, but we don't have that here, and there isn't the option to have it. So, yeah, my dad managed the stairs fine until he was about 86, I think. And then he struggled. They had a stair lift, but just wasn't ideal. And we can't have that because our stairs are on the outside of the building. It's just not possible for us to have that here. So yeah, I'm thinking along those lines. Do it before we need to. Because, you know, if I leave it another 5 years or 10 years, who knows how mobile I'm going to be, whether we're going to be compos mentis in 5 years' times, whether we're going to have the energy to, you know, pack things up and get rid of all the rubbish we need to get rid of, the stuff we've been hanging on to. I think downsizing and streamlining the things you hold on to, you know, I mean, I've got a dinner service I've not used in 7 years we've been in this flat. You know, we used to have dinner parties. We haven't had a dinner party in probably 20 years now. Why am I keeping this dinner service in a cupboard, taking up space? I want to get rid of it. So, yeah, I think of thinking about downsizing and downsizing to accommodation that's accessible is really important, to think about that. And yeah, much as I love here, you know, I do keep procrastinating. I thought about it last year and then we didn't do it. And we had the opportunity to go to a nice place, very nice, but the timing was wrong. My son was getting married and we had expense with that. And yeah, a lot going on, you know, but I think now's the time, you know. I see how my mum and stepfather can manage because they're, you know, they haven't got steps to negotiate or anything. They've got a ramp up to the house. And I don't feel ready for that yet. And yeah, my husband especially, he's really reluctant to go down that route. You know, it's kind of use it or lose it. And I do see that point of view. I definitely do. But I'm also thinking, yeah, I'm just, you know, I'm a planner and I'm just planning for that. You know, I'd rather do it now while I can than wait for it to become an emergency or a necessity that we have to move, and we might have to move somewhere we don't want to move because it might be easier if we're not able to do it ourselves. So yeah, I'm thinking along those lines about thinking about changing our accommodation. So, and I think it might be something that you might want to consider, or something that perhaps I think perhaps everybody should before they get to a position where they can't do it. You know, they can't do it for themselves. Do it while you can. That's using it or losing it, isn't it? I guess. So yeah, that's one of the things I was thinking about. So, and otherwise, I have got a lot of stuff that I want to talk about as well, about assisted dying and that, but can't do it right now. I'm too emotional. But I'm kind of in favour of it. I know there are people who aren't, and you know the reasons are valid, but I'd really like to be able to choose when I want to go. I'd like to have that option. So I want to talk about that perhaps in more in depth. But you know, if anybody's got any feelings, put some in the comments of things you want to talk about. I know a while ago I think somebody talked about difficulty meeting people when you're on your own and aging. I'll have a think about that because I'm not on my own. I have got family, and honestly, I think women are perhaps a little better at that than men. I was talking to my husband the other day about I do go to places on my own, but I don't think my husband would. I think he'd just sit here, he'd get beers at home. He might go to the pub. But, you know, if you want to meet someone of the opposite sex, you know, a guy, you know, women tend not to go to pubs on their own. They would go somewhere with a group of women, maybe to an event like, you know, I kind of grew up in, you know, my sort of teenage years was Northern Soul, Motown, and kind of folk music. I was kind of a bit of a hippie as well. But, you know, I would go to a soul night or something. I would go to that with a friend, but I wouldn't go necessarily to a pub and just go drinking in a pub. So if you want to meet people, yeah, some suggestions, please. Because your comments, you know, if other people read your comments, you might just make a big difference to somebody. You might give them an idea that just, yeah, why didn't I think of that? Yeah, I could do that. Yeah, why not? So yeah, thank you to everybody who's still here, still watching. Thank you for, you know, the motivation and kind of it's just really heartwarming for me to know that people are listening and that, yeah, I kind of want to say you're not alone. You know, you can always drop a message and, you know, instigate, you know, a topic for discussion or something. I've been following a guy who's in some of my posts and my playlists. His name's John, and he was a carer. Well, he is still a carer for his wife, who's got early onset dementia, and I started watching him when she was still at home, and now she's in a care home, nursing home. She's in a facility anyway, and he talks about his life and how she's changed. And you know, I look at those videos and I think how she was 3 years ago, and how she is now, and we don't know what's ahead of us. So yeah, embrace every minute. Embrace the fact that we're still here and we're still breathing. And thank you so much, everybody, for being here. Take care. I love you all. Thanks for being here. Bye.